mixing board. Oh, I'll get you a mixing board. So you could sound more professional or whatever. So, and when we were opening our gifts, I said, "So, Dad, did I get my mixing board?" And he says, "Well, you're going to open it backwards." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So what he means by that is, first off, if you're going to use a mixing board and you do not have a computer, you need a mixing board, you need a tape deck, because you're going to record your show, and you need 2 CD players. Now, the reason you need 2 CD players is because you're going to fade one song into another. And when I first got that mixing board, man, and I got all that hooked up, man, I loved playing with that. And I loved it because my shows sounded incredibly professional, and I still have that board to this day. I'll never part with it. I'll let it collect dust, and I'll tell you why. Because it was my first board. It was the first ever mixing board that introduced me to that kind of equipment. Now, jumping back a few years, jumping back to 1993, 97.1 WYOU changed their format a little bit. I mean, not necessarily changed. They didn't change it right away, but they changed it. They tweaked it. So they were, 97.1 WYOU and Today's Hot New Country, and which is like, when I first heard Today's Hot New Country, it was almost like Garth Brooks when he first heard George Jones and George Strait sing. It was just like, wow. And you never thought, they're just 4 words. Who cares? Today's Hot New Country. What's the big deal? Well, I'll get to that. So, in 93, WYOU changed their slogan from just 97.1 WYOU to Y97 Hot Country. And I was just like, wow. I said, wow, I want to work for these guys. Because at that point I thought getting a job in radio was just like getting a job at Walmart. You go apply and they say yes or no and whatnot. So I said that I wanted to work for 97.1 WYOU, and Y97 Hot Country did that. I was hooked. That's what I want to do. I want to be in radio. I want to be in radio. And Steve McKay was big there in 93. As a matter of fact, it was not only Steve McKay, but it was Mike Hale. Steve McKay and Mike Hale, to me, are like George Strait and George Jones to Garth Brooks. When you watch Garth Brooks, accept an award at the CMA Awards, he would always say, George Strait, George Jones, I'm doing this because of you. You guys are my heroes. Steve McKay and Mike Hale were my George Jones, George Strait. They were like, I wanted to be in radio because of them. I do this because of them. If I would hate to think what would ever happen if I never knew those two existed. I really do. I don't like to really think about it. I don't go there at all. But I'm just, sitting here and talking to you, it's like, wow, what if? You know what I mean? Would I be in radio today? Who knows? So, listening to those two, I was like, I really want to be in radio. That's when I got the boombox. That's when I started doing stuff. And I don't think my father spent a lot of money on it early on, because he's probably like thinking, is he going to grow out of this? Is he always going to want to do this? In 95, he realized, I think, that I wanted to do this, and this is what I want to do. And so I did. he got me the board and he got me everything I needed. Now, when I was on the, I would always say on the air. It would sound better. When I was on the air, I would, for a long time, would say 97.1 WYOU or whatever they were doing at the time. And I was riding with my dad. I was like, Dad, I kind of want to create my own station. Like, my own. Obviously, this didn't cost any money. This was just a station that was, hey, create this. Like, call it something different. I was looking for ideas from him, and he said, well, how about Boss of Country? I was like, oh. All right. And call letters, I don't know if I'm pretty sure he came up with WBOS. And so I was like, all right, sure. So I came up with, now I don't know much about frequencies at this point, but I came up with 105.7. I knew a little bit. I knew that there's not a radio station that has a frequency like 96.6 or 96.8 or anything like that. Your frequencies are always, and they always end in odd numbers. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. You know odd numbers. I don't have to tell you. So, I came up with 105.7. And I came up with WBOS. And in 1995, before Christmas, my birthday is February 24. So in 1995, I was 14 years old. I think that was when I had my first coffee. My father's really cool. I'll tell you this. My father is cool. He'd let me get away with stuff my mother necessarily probably wouldn't. I mean, definitely, my mother is great. She is. She just wouldn't let me get away with as much as maybe my father would. Not knocking her, I'm just stating facts. So that nobody can go and listen to this podcast and be like, yeah, I heard you say that your mother was this and your mother was that. No, that's not what I'm saying. So Dad and I went to Jimmy V's Bar and Grill because Jimmy Vadamas was working with him at the time and whatnot. So we would go, and I had my first coffee, and I'll tell you what, it was good. It was really good. I'm a hot chocolate guy now, but coffee is really good. Now, if you're tuning in, what I'm basically doing today is just explaining why I got into radio, how I got into radio, how the whole, basically, you watch GAC's backstory. That's what this is. This is my radio backstory. And one thing I won't do is when I see somebody else tune in, I'm not going to start right at the beginning because that'll take a long time. Now, on my birthday, we also go to 97.1 WYOU. It's funny how that station keeps coming up. It really is. And we go, and he, I don't know why. I mean, I know we're going somewhere. I just don't know where. And that's where we go. And I think I wrote a commercial or something, and I didn't know that we were going there. So my father mentioned that I was trying to write a commercial, and they were like, "Oh, you should have brought it." Well, he didn't know he was coming here, so what they did was they made some liners for me. DJ McCoy and Neil Oren, very, very instrumental people to my radio career at that point, because they were here's what you have to do. If you want to be in a business like radio, you can't do it by yourself. You can't be like, all right, I want to be in radio, and then have a father that sets you up with, the way I was set up and this and that and this and that, and just do it by yourself and have, and you don't call anybody. Here's the thing. I feel bad for radio personalities. I'll tell you why. Because they had to deal with me when I was a kid. I would call them up. My gosh, my poor buddy Rob Green. Great man. Probably, I say Steve McKay and Mike Hill were the reasons I wanted to be in radio, and that will always and forever be true. Rob Green, I know he hates compliments, is probably my all-time favorite radio personality. Especially when he was doing country. That was... he taught me a lot. And it's weird because I was watching a New Year's Eve special in 1994. And it's Little Texas in concert. And I don't know why. I don't know if I thought that there would be somebody there playing music at Q106.5 or whatever the case might be. I called them up and I basically was talking to him. So, hey, who's this? And he says, oh, this is Rob Green. I says, oh, okay. And I told him I wanted to be in radio and this and that. And we talked. I talked the poor guy's ear off. I feel so bad. I really do. I will. Listen, he's a good guy. I don't think at this point, I don't think he has any regrets. I don't think he's like, well, geez, I wish I never talked to that guy. As a matter of fact, I can guarantee you that's the case. And so every Saturday night from 7 to about 11, a few breaks in between, on and off, I'd call him and talk to him. Not trying to bug him. I'm just trying to learn about the business. Who's going to teach me? Well, I don't know, something about him. I called him because I felt like he'd probably be the only one that would talk to me at the time. And because he was doing Country Gold Saturday Night, and Country Gold Saturday Night was automated. It was all he was doing was running the board, so he had time to talk. And he did stuff in between that he had to do, and hey, I got to run. All right. I'd call him an hour, 2 hours later. Hey, you still busy? No. And I just talk his ear off some more, poor guy. And I'll tell you what, he became a big player in my radio career, in my radio game, if you will. I obviously don't think radio's a game. I take it very seriously. I take my show very seriously, as if I was getting paid to do it, and as if it was a commercial station. So, not a lot happens the rest of the year in 95. Well, 96 just started after I got the board. And whatever. So, Rob and I basically become really good country music buddies. We do. He told me stuff that I'm definitely not trying to get anybody in trouble. I'm not going to mention anything, but he told me stuff that a disc jockey doesn't tell a regular listener. They just don't. Not at all. Because it's none of their business. Why would a radio DJ come up to me